Welcome to this week's video, and this week I've picked myself up another faulty Nintendo Switch off of eBay. As you can see, the condition of this one's very rough. We got the grate at the top which is broken. We don't have a bonus game, which is unfortunate, and it's scuffed on the back. It only cost £29, so it's one of the cheapest ones that I could find. And we'll plug our adapter in, and it feels and sounds very crunchy, and I'm getting nothing on the amp reader. I'll flip it over, nothing on that side either, so we've definitely got an issue with the port. So we'll get our iFixit kit out, and then we'll remove all the tri-wing screws on the back, and then we'll get our Phillips head screwdriver and remove the ones along the sides, and then we'll peel the back cover off. Very dusty inside, and then we've got Phillips head screws on the rear heat shield, so we'll remove all of them, carefully remove the SD card connector, and we'll take the back off. Disconnect the battery, and then we're going to get our amp meter out, and then we're going to turn it to the one that beeps, and then we're going to check around the M92, and if it beeps on both sides of a cap, it means the M92 chip is likely a fault. And I get to this cap here, and we're beeping on both sides, which normally always means it's the M92. So we need to get the motherboard out. The good thing is this looks like it's never been opened before, as this foam normally gets damaged if someone's already opened it. So there's a good chance that we could be able to fix one, that no one's previously botched it. So we take the heat pipe out, we take the game cart out, we'll disconnect all the ribbon cables, remove all the screws, and then we'll just remember to disconnect these two cables here, and then we'll lift the motherboard out. Now we'll take a closer look under the microscope. So this is what I'm expecting to be a fault. I'm just going to quickly check the fuse as well, and we're getting a beep, which means it's good. We'll go back to this chip, and it's still beeping on both sides, so we're definitely saying that's the fault. We'll have a look at the port under the microscope as well, and it looks very battered. There's pins all over the place, so we've definitely had some kind of wrong connection made, and it's blown something internal. So I'll come with a little bit of flux. I'll come with some hot air, and then we're going to have it at 360 degrees C at 60% airflow, and then we'll just keep moving it around, warming up the chip. Once the solder begins to melt, make sure that you lift up and not to the side, as there's lots of caps around and we don't want to be making a mess of the swap over. And then I'll come in with a replacement chip. So this is a new one that's been bought from AliExpress. Just line it up as best you can, and then just try and nudge it into place. As I've had to add a little bit extra solder to the new chip, I tend to hold it down for a couple of seconds. The excess flux will flow out, and then we can come in with our soldering iron, and then we can tidy up the sides. We can make sure there's no bridge pins along the edges. So I've got a little bit of flux that's attached to a cap here. So all we need to do is come with some solder wick, a big tipped soldering iron, and then you just need to hold it on for a couple of seconds and then move it away and remove all the excess solder. Leave it on for too long, you might remove the cap. Give it a good clean with isopropyl. Make sure you clean as you go along. I use Kingbow flux, but it does get very sticky. And then I'll come with my multimeter again. And now I'm not getting beeps on both sides of the caps, which means that the M92 should be working fine. We also need to swap the port over as well. So my little trick with this is, I'll come with a sharp knife, very carefully bend the inner pins up, makes it easy for them to connect. Apply some flux, come in with some solder, we'll pre-tin all the legs, and then it's also another secondary measure to make sure that the internal pins connect. We'll apply some flux to the old port, and then we'll come round. I've got it up to 380 degrees C, So we just need to focus on the two front legs, try and get the solder melted on them, and then we can move towards the back. With this, you need to make sure that the port is totally moving before you try and lift it away, or you're going to be pulling a lot of pads off, and then you're going to turn it into a massive job. So keep moving the heat around and trying to get to all the 4 port legs. I'm giving it a little bit of a wiggle very gently, and then as soon as it becomes loose, you can lift it away. Then I'll just come with a little bit more flux, and then we'll come in from solder wick. And then what I tend to do is to solder away all the holes to make them nice and clear, and then the ports will fit in nice and easy. These ones tend to be a little bit harder, so you need to use a soldering iron and hot air station at the same time, and then it will suck out all the excess solder, and it will make it super easy for us when we're fitting our new port. So all 4 ground legs are nice and clear, and then I'll apply fresh flux to the pads, and then we'll come with our soldering iron and give them fresh solder so it's all ready for the new port to go on. If you get any bridges like that, just apply a little bit more flux again, and then just come in and brush down, and it'll smarten them all up. Give it a clean with isopropyl. We might as well get rid of all the stickiness. It'll make it easier. We don't want loads of flux in the port, or we'll have issues later on. And then that gives it a good clean, and as you can see, it's looking all nice and sparkling, which is perfect for the new port. So a little bit of flux goes on here. You don't need much. You probably put a little bit too much on, so I wiped a bit away. And then I come underneath and back to 360 degrees C, because I'm literally just melting the pads and the one little hole which has had a little bit of excess solder in. Keep an eye on the hole, you'll see it start moving, and then once you see that's all melted, then you know all the other pads are melted too. Keep it moving, don't touch any from underneath. Come in with your new port, line it all up, make sure it's lined up perfectly, and then press it down. Keep the heat moving for a couple of seconds, then move it away. Keep holding. You want the solder to melt before you release, so hold it on as long as you can, and then once you can see the solder's all solidified, you can move away. Let it cool down. We'll have a little look under the microscope, and the external ones look perfect. So if the external ones are, the inner ones should be as well. We'll flip it over, we'll put some flux on the back port legs, and then we'll come with our large tip soldering iron, apply plenty of solder. All you need to do here is put the soldering iron on, the solder on, and leave it on for a couple of seconds. The solder will flow through, down the legs, and make a nice solid connection with no risk of the port coming off in the future. So just do that on all 4 of the legs. Hold it on, let it flow right in. You can add more if you need to. If it's not flowing, add a little bit more flux. Just try and keep it away from the port itself, as you don't want loads of flux going into the port, as we mentioned before. And then we'll come with our isopropyl again, and then give it a good clean. You do not want to leave any flux left on the board. Just keep wiping it away. We'll flip over, do the other side. You can see the solder has flooded through the port legs, which is going to make it nice and strong. And I'll just carry on up the board and do the M92 chip again. Just make sure that's nice and clean. And then we'll give it a quick check once more with our tweezers. It looked good, none of the legs are moving, so it is good. This one's nice and solid. So we'll plug the battery into the motherboard. That's all we need to do. We've got our amp meter, and then we'll plug that in. Do we get something on the screen to begin with? Yeah, it lights up. We get 15 volts, we get low ampage, but that's probably because the battery is going to be fully dead, which is not too bad. So we just need to flip it over to make sure that it shows that it's charging on both sides. So it lights up 15 volts. So I'm not too worried about the low amperage. That's more than likely going to be a very poor battery, because it looks like it's been not used in quite a while. So we'll put the motherboard back in, we'll put the game cart in. I'm attaching as little as possible because I just need to give it a quick check. We'll plug the battery in, we'll flip it over, and then we will get our amp meter, plug it in, and then do we get anything on the screen? Yeah, we get a battery symbol in the corner, so we're pretty much sure we're working. So I had to leave it a good 30 minutes to get any charge into it. As you can see, the voltage and amperage is perfect. We press the power button, we get the Nintendo logo. We then get the Nintendo Switch logo, and then we get a booting screen. The touchscreen works fine. All seem to be looking good. We now seem to have a fully working Nintendo Switch. It's on quite high firmware considering the condition it was in. I thought it might be a bit lower. The only real issue we've got is it's in pretty rough condition. So I'm pretty sure it's fixed. And then I went to plug it into the TV and then realised it doesn't dock. So we get the board back out. It's more likely going to be this P13 chip, but we also need to check these filters. If they don't beep either side when you line it up, that means the filter's blown. But if you do line it up next to each other and it beeps, then the filters are good. So we'll go along all 5 filters, and all 5 filters are beeping. So the filters aren't bad, it's got to be this chip. So we'll come with some flux again. We'll come in with 360 degrees C, and then we'll just keep moving it around. You only need to apply a little bit of flux as it spreads around the chip nice and easy. And then same as the M92 chip, once the solder begins to melt, make sure you lift up. Don't lift to the side, back or forwards, as you're going to knock some chips and make it a bigger job. And then you can come straight back in with our new P13 chip. Make sure it's set the right way. So when it's in this orientation, the dot is to the top right. Line it up as best as it can. Let it cool. Once it's cooled down, hold down again. Come back in with your heat so we can get all the excess solder to squeeze out. And then once it's cooled down and dried, we can then come back in with some flux again. We'll come in with our small soldering iron, and then we can get rid of the excess. So you literally just need to give it a little dab and it should just tip it away. We'll give it a good clean of isopropyl. Like I keep saying, you've got to keep clean as you go. You don't want a board covered in horrible sticky flux, and it's going to make it pretty much unworkable. So we put it back into the housing. We'll put it into the dock, have a little look up, and second time lucky, we've got a fully docking Nintendo Switch. So the plan was to swap it over with the housing, put a new digitizer on it. I've done many videos on this, so I won't show it again. So this is now the fully refurbed Nintendo Switch all working. So it's got a new housing, which was only a couple of pounds off AliExpress. The digitizers for some reason weren't working, so I had to go back to the original one. So it is a little bit scuffed, so it might be something I'll change in the future. But for the moment it'll do. I'll plug in the Joy-Cons, both of the Joy-Cons connect. I'll pop a game cart into it. As you can see, once I click it in, the game's recognised as well. It connects to the internet, it charges as it should, and it's all fully working. So for £29, we've got a fully working Nintendo Switch V2. Took a little bit of work, but it was nothing major. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.